This
Right, let's start today's session. So in the last session, we were discuss about object-oriented programming abstraction. Then today's session, I'm going to discuss about exception handling mechanism. So what is exception? How to work with exception handling mechanism? We will see that. So exception means error handling. That is exception handling mechanism. Exception handling mechanism here. Generally, when we type Python code and execute, okay. So when we type Python code and execute, okay, there may be chance of uh, two types of error occurrences. When we type Python code and execute, there may be chance to get two types of error occurrences. That is, one is syntactical errors, syntactical errors. Next one is runtime errors, runtime errors. Syntactical errors means these errors occurs when we miss double quotes or when we miss colon or when we write wrong spelling to the syntax. Wrong spelling to the syntax. These are called syntactical errors. Syntactical errors means when we miss double quotes or colon or wrong spelling to the syntax. In that context, we will get syntactical errors. These syntactical errors do not harmful to the program execution. Why? Because when we get syntactical errors, as a programmer, we can easily identify and rectify. Okay. Syntactical errors can be easily identified and rectified by the programmer at the time of writing the code only. Okay. At the time of writing the code, sir. So this is syntactical errors clearly. So even syntactical errors do not cause any harmful to the program execution. So there don't be any problem when we get syntactical errors. These are very simple mistakes while doing programming. But now we can see this runtime errors are there. Runtime errors means the errors which will come at the time of program execution is called runtime error. Errors which will rise at the time of program execution. At the time of program execution is called what? Runtime errors. Runtime errors. Runtime errors also called as what actually? Exceptions. Runtime error is also called as exception. Or else somebody will ask what is exception means we should say runtime errors. So these exceptions or runtime errors will give abnormal termination of program execution. Okay, exceptions will give what are actually abnormal termination of program execution. Abnormal termination of program execution. Abnormal termination of program execution. Errors which will rise at the time of program execution is called runtime errors. And runtime errors are nothing but what? Exceptions. Exceptions will give abnormal termination of program execution. Abnormal termination means unsuccessful termination. There are two terminations are there. One is successful termination, next one is unsuccessful termination. Okay. Successful termination means when we execute the program, okay, when we give some values to the program, that values will received by the program and it will process that values and it will give proper output to the programmer. That's successful termination only. Next, unsuccessful termination means whenever we give the values to the program, Okay, due to that invalid inputs to the program, due to invalid inputs to the program, all of sudden program execution will stop, sir. All of sudden program execution will be stopped. In that context, abnormal termination will rise. So due to some invalid inputs, it's raise error, exception only. That is abnormal termination, we can call it as. Okay, that is abnormal termination. Okay, so abnormal termination, we have to handle it. You have to make normal termination. If end user is giving some invalid inputs, obviously it raise exception that will give abnormal termination. Program will not execute well. So we have to handle this runtime errors or exceptions. So in that context, we can use exception handling mechanisms. To handle the exception, what we use? Exception handling mechanism. What are the exception handling mechanisms are there? There are two types of exception handling mechanisms are there. One is logical implementation. Next one is try catch implementation. One is logical implementation. Next one is try catch implementation. Logical implementation is okay. Try catch implementation is okay. Okay, this is the case. Two types of implementations are there. Logical implementation, try catch implement. Try except are here. This is try except implementation is there. Try except. Logical implementation and try except implementations are there. This is the try except implementation only. In other languages, try catch will be there, but in Python we use try except only here. So first we will see logical implementation. We'll see logical implementation. So logical implementation means logically we have to handle the exception only using logical statements only. But sometimes all the exceptions may not possible to handle using logical statements. Then in that context we can go for try except implementation. Okay, yeah. So let's see this logical implementation. Most of the cases, first priority we should give to logical implementation only. If in case logical implementation through or logical statements through any exception is not possible to handle, then we can go for next step is try except implementation. First priority we should give to logical implementation. Then next try except implementation we have to give this priority only. These two are exception handling mechanisms clearly. Logical implementation and try except implementation like this. Okay, fine. So this is exception. But next, the technical definition exception means the technical definition of exception. An unexpected event or unwanted event will disturb program program execution, flow of program execution. An unexpected event or unwanted event will disturb the flow of program execution. The flow of program execution. Okay, the flow of program execution is called exception. Exception. An unexpected event or unwanted event will disturb the flow of program execution is called exception. So we should handle this exception using logical implementation and try except implementation. But look at this, these logical implementation and try except implementations only for runtime errors, not for syntactical errors. Because syntactical errors can be easily identify and rectify the programmer at the time of writing the code only. Okay, syntactical errors can be easily identify and rectify the programmers at the time of writing the code, but runtime errors cannot handle because these errors will come at the time of program execution. That's what we cannot handle that. So runtime errors, okay, cannot able to solve at the time of program execution time. So we need to handle that runtime errors by using exception handling mechanisms only here. So I'm saying that runtime errors are what we can say The exception handling mechanisms are only for runtime errors, not for syntactical errors. And most important thing is exception handling mechanisms are not repairing the error. It's not going to repair the errors. Okay, exception handling mechanisms are not going to repair the errors. These are going to only provide alternative way of program execution successfully. Only alternative way it will show that. So exception handling mechanism is not process of repairing the error. It is just a process to show alternative way of executing program successfully. Let's see this. What are the exceptions? What type of exceptions are available? So there are two types of exceptions generally. Okay, types of exceptions. So let's see this. Types of exceptions. Types of exceptions. One is logical implementation. Sorry. One is user defined exceptions. User defined exception. Next one is predefined exceptions. Predefined exception like this. Okay, user defined exceptions. Next one is predefined exceptions. So user defined exception means programmer need to create these exceptions to manage the exception errors. Predefined exception means already these exceptions are predefined. These exceptions are what actually predefined on. Predefined means it's a built-in exceptions. So we can prepare our own exceptions also, that is user defined exceptions. In case if existing exception classes do not meet your requirements, and also most of the cases we use predefined exceptions which is already available. First we'll talk about predefined exceptions. These are system defined exceptions. Defined exceptions also called as customized exceptions. Fine. So in Python every exception is a class. In Python every exception is a class, sir. Yes, in Python every exception is a class. Suppose there are a lot of all exceptions are there. So what are the exception classes are there? For example, name error, this is exception class. Value error, this is also exception class. Like we might see in all these errors, like type error, this is also exception class. Next, what we can say, uh, zero division error. Zero division error, this is an exception class. Next, what actually, name error, value error, type error, zero division error. Okay. So some different errors also there, like what we can say, uh, file not found error, file not found error. This is also exception class. File exist error, file exist error. This is also exception class. So these are all exception classes exactly, sir, here. Okay. Yes. So all these are built-in exception classes. All these are built-in exception classes. So built-in means are already predefined, which is available in Python actually. So already predefined, which is available in Python, sir, clearly. So these are all built-in exceptions. You can, whenever we get these exceptions in your programming at the time of execution, then we need to handle these exceptions clearly. But all of these exceptions are subclass exceptions. So who is the superclass of all these subclass exception means? Okay, this is the superclass, sir. So here you can see exception is the superclass of all subclass exceptions. We can say that exception is the superclass of what? All subclass exceptions. So this is the superclass. Instead of these all subclasses, we can also use what actually superclass are no problem at all. So exception is the superclass of all subclass exceptions clearly. Okay. Yes. So let's see this one by one, how these exceptions will be you work here, how these exceptions will be raised In what cases name error, value error, type error, zero division error is there. And file not found error, file exist error, I can't show at this time. In the next topic, file handling concept only, there we can clearly explain how file not found error is there, file exist error is there, like this only. Okay, let's see this. Now coming to this here, example, new Python file. So exception one program. Observe here, example a value 10, print a. I'm using into capital letter A. Obviously, you will get what error, sir? You can see name error. Name A is not defined. Okay, name error. Name A is not defined. Did you mean A? Yes. So this is what exception only. Name error it is. Okay. So A value 10, print capital A here. Why? Because the A name is declared a small letter, but you are trying to access with what? Actually capital letter only, clearly. So this is about name error. Name A is not defined, sir. Fine. Next, value error. For example, here I am accepting one value from the user input. Enter a number. User is trying to enter a number. Now you can see print A only. Now let's run this. Now you can see enter a number 10. And now you can see this, we got this 10 value. Fine. But the moment when I try to give some invalid inputs like ABC, what error we got, sir? Value error. This is also an exception. So this is due to end user invalid inputs, all of a sudden we got the exceptions. This is called abnormal termination. So to avoid this abnormal termination, we have to handle the exceptions clearly. So for handling purpose only, we have exception handling mechanisms. One is logical implementation. Next one is try except implementation, like this only. Okay. So now let's see this value error. This is value error. Next, what we have, name error, type error is there. Type error means this is when we try to add two numbers, like for example here n is 1 and name is Durga. So we are trying to adding like one integer, one string, then we will get type error here. So unsupported operand type for plus, integer and string only. This is type error, sir. So next, zero division error is there. Zero division error means like this. Whenever we try to attempt a number with divided by 0, in this context, now we can see zero division error, division by 0 it is saying. Zero division error, like division by 0 only. This is what zero division error. We can't divide any number with 0, no? Yes, that is not possible. So in this context, we can go for what actually? These are the errors available. So these errors or abnormal terminations are going to give, this is called exceptions only, runtime errors we can call it as. The errors which will come at the time of program execution, these errors are called runtime errors. So abnormal terminations only will give that. Okay. So who is the super class of all this exception means exception only here. So this is complete basic introduction of exception handling mechanism. First we should go for logical implementation, then after we'll go for try except implementation also if any errors occurred. Let us consider the example here, sir. I'm trying to show you that example. Very simple example. Int of input of what we can say enter a number. Enter a number. Now you can see b equals to int of input of enter second number. Enter first number and enter second number. Now this is first number and second number clearly available. A and B are there. So A value and then B value. Fine. So C equals to A by B I'm taking. And print what I'm saying that the result is then what we can see C only. So when we try to run this, so first number 10, second number 5, it's okay. 2.0 is the output. Then first number is, for example, 10. First number is 0, second number is 10. Then that is what actually 0.0 only. So 0 by something 0 only. So this is okay. But the moment when I try to give first number 10 and second number 0, then what will happen? You can see 0 division error is there. Division by 0 only here. 0 division error. It's a division by 0 clearly. So this is what abnormal termination. Why it is? Due to user invalid input, second number as 0. So this 0 division error is exception is available. Division by 0 is there. So we have to handle this exceptions are here. So how to handle this exception? We'll see now. So to handle this exception, then we need to use exception handling mechanisms. That are two. One is logical implementation. Next one is try except implementation. First priority we should give to logical implementation. In case all the exceptions may not possible to handle using logical statements, in that case we can go for try except implementation. But first priority we should give to logical. Let me solve this logically how it is. So there is a problem with second number. So that's what I am giving here. If b equal to 0, then I am going to show the message. Second number cannot be 0. I can say that. If b equal to 0, second number cannot be 0. Else block I am taking. That is c equals to a by b, and print the result is c only. So this is what exactly how I am handling this exception using logical statement. So if second number is entered 0, then we should say this message second number cannot be 0. If not, second number is not 0, so value is there, then we can go for else block only. So if I go for 4 by 2, then that is perfect result. There is second number is not 0. In case user is by mistake 4 by 0 is given, a number cannot division with 0. Now we got this second number cannot be 0 like this. This message is clearly says that so second number cannot be 0 sir here. Okay. So else block c equals to a by b. The result is what actually c value only. Got my point? So print the result is c only. Second number cannot be 0. Fine. But all the exceptions may not possible to handle using logical statements. No. All the exceptions may not possible to handle the logical statements. For example, you can see when we run this, we are asking the first number, but we are giving some like characters here. Now we can see we got this value error, invalid literal for int with base 10, that is only. So again we got this other exception like this. So to handle this all the exceptions, so different types of exceptions will raise in different types of situations. In that context, to handle all the exceptions, we can go for try except implementation. So all the exceptions may not possible to handle using logical statements. We have to go for try except implementation also. Let's see this. Try except implementation. And for your kind information here, try is a keyword, except also is a keyword. Try is a keyword and except also is a keyword. Okay, try except implementation only. So the syntax of try except implementation is try block, some statements, then next what except block, some statements like this. Try block, statements, except block, statements only. So these two are what actually try block and except block here clearly. These two are the try block statements and except block statements. So generally try block statements, what statements it can be. So how the try block and except block will execute, I'll show you. First control will jump into try block, sir. Inside the try block, whatever the statements we include, all the statements will check once. If all the statements in try block are correct, all the statements which we included inside the try block are correct, there is no exceptions, everything is fine, then try block only will execute, sir. What block will execute? Try block only will execute. In case, then at the time, if try block statements are execute means except block will ignore, sir. There is no execution of except block. In case if there is a exception, okay, in case there is an exception, there is a abnormal termination available in this try block statements, then control will ignore this try block and control will jump into what? Except block. Then except block statements will execute now. So this is the style. If everything is fine, try block statements will execute. There is no except block statements. In case suppose there is a try block, some problem is there, exceptions are there, then except block will execute, sir. There are some rules. So same if condition, else condition, now it will be same here, try block and except block also same like. Generally, what kind of statements we can include inside the try block means risky code. Risky code means there is a possibility to get the exceptions. And what kind of code we should keep inside the except block means handling code. Handling code means there is a possibility to handle the exceptions once we raise this here. This is the handling code clearly here. So risky code always we should write inside the try block, and handling code always we should write inside the except block. Except block contain what the way you are handling the code when the exceptions occurred at try block only, sir. Let's see the same example with try block and except block statements only. So it's same example I'm just keeping. Look at this. So this is the risky code, I can say. Why? Because there is a possibility to get the exceptions with this code only. Look at this. The moment when we run this, there is a possibility to run the to get the exceptions. If I give some invalid entry, like instead of numbers, if I give ABC, so we got this exception. And if I'm trying to give some invalid numbers like then zero division error, division by zero here, that is exceptions clearly available. Okay. So this is risky code. This risky code I should keep into try block only, sir. Let's try to give try block. Try is a keyword. Inside the try block, I'm giving except block. Except is also keyword. Inside the except block, I'm writing my own message like something went wrong. But what went wrong, we don't know here. Got my point? What went wrong, we don't know. So try block, except block. A value, B value, C value. So except block is there, print something went wrong. So this is completely try block statements, risky code. This is called except block statements, handling code. Let's run this once. The moment when we run this by entering some numbers like 10 by 5, it's a valid expression. 10 by 5, the result is 2.0. What block is executing, sir? Try block only executing. The result is 2.0. Fine. There is no problem. But let's see this. Whenever we run this, the enter first number 10 by 0, then there is a problem because a number cannot division with 0. Then in this context, we got this something went wrong. Which block it's executing now? Except block. Why? Because something went wrong is present inside the except block only. So there is a problem in this try block. We have entered first number 10 and second number 0. Something went wrong is got here. So let's run this again. If I give this something like ABC characters, but I have to give numbers, but I'm trying to give ABC characters here, then let's run this. Something went wrong. Again, it is there here. So what is this? Something went wrong. We are handling exception. But what is the problem in this example? Did you notice? Every time, whenever we get an exception, like zero division exception, or what we can say, value error exception, type error exception, like that, unsupported type, ABC characters, like that. Every time any exception raised in this program, we just only showing that something went wrong. But what went wrong, we are unable to what shows that. So we are unable to show the messages to the end user what went wrong exactly. We are showing just simply something went wrong, something went wrong. But we are not giving any clarity to the user. So and so problem is occurred here. So I need to display a proper exception message to the user. Okay. So we have except block, but this is default except block. So default except block can handle any type of exception, sir. Value error, zero division error, all the type of exceptions can handle default except block, no problem. But what is the problem with the default except block means it's unable to display a message to the user, sir. It's unable to display a message to the user. Proper messages we cannot able to display. Only whatever we have written inside this except block, that will by default it will display here. But this is not relevant to the exceptions. So we are unable to display a proper exception message in this example. To display a proper relevant exception messages into this example, then we use what actually specific except block we have to use. If you are not sure which exception will raise in the try block of code, which exception class should be used, mention in except block. That's what here default except block only it is required. You don't have idea about any exception. Default except block is okay. It can handle any type of exception. Okay, but your question is if you are not unable to know that exception means I can recommend super class. I'll show you. Don't worry. If you know that exception names and all, you can mention particular exception class name. But if you have no idea about exception classes, we don't know as a program what exceptions may occur, then in that context we can go for super class only. Super class can take care all the exceptions clearly. So right now we are having this is default except block. When we use default except block, what is the problem actually? We are unable to show a proper message, exception message. So that's what to avoid this. If you want to show the proper exception messages, then we use what? Specific except block. Except blocks are two types. Default except block is there. Default except block. This default except block means the except block without any exception class is called default except block. The except block without any exception class is called default except block. A specific except block means the except block with exception class. Except block with exception class is called default specific except block. So specific except block means the except block with exception class. The except block with exception class is called what? Specific except block. The except block without any exception class is called default except block. Here except block is there, there is no exception class. That's what we are unable to show a proper messages to the end user. Every time we are saying something went wrong only. What went wrong? We don't know. So that's what here I'm using except block with specific except block. For example, zero division error as MSG. So this is what actually zero division exception class. Because I'm saying that clearly in this program, I'm getting what actually zero division errors or format exceptions like that. So zero division error is a exception class. It's a predefined exception class as is a keyword. MSG is an object only. You can take any object here, MSG or message or something like this. You can take as your wish. So the name MSG is not compulsory. Any name you can take. So that name I'm printing here, MSG. Now this time observe here, this except block is having a exception class clearly. Zero division error exception class is there here. When we execute this, so the moment when I try to give proper values 10 by 5, the result is 2.0. We got this try block code only. But how it will be except block code, you can see 10 by 0 I'm using. Now division by 0 is there. But did I write anywhere division by 0 text in my program? No. But who is giving this division by 0 text message? This zero division error class, this is exception class, will return this message zero division by message as a message format, print message. We are printing this message only. So division by 0 is available because of this zero division error class will give the message as an object. This message we are printing. As I said that this message is any name like this. Any object we can take. This object will store the message which will return by the zero division error class here only. Okay, so this is clear, sir. If I give some ABC characters also, now you can see what will happen. Other exception is got. So we are handling only one exception in this case. Only zero division by error. We got zero division by zero only. But we have not handled the other exception, like if user is giving some invalid entries like ABC like this, we didn't get value error invalid literal for int with base 10 like this. Got my point? Yes. So there is a problem. So can we add one more except block, sir? Can we include multiple except blocks? Obviously, why not? You can see this. I'm including multiple except blocks. Except block value error as message or MSG. We can take shortcut into that message. So here also I'm taking message. So you can take this object name, any name, no problem. So we can include any number of except blocks as per your requirement. So now I'm including first ABC, invalid literal for int with base 10. We are handling this message because of this. We are giving 10 by 0. Division by 0, we are handling this because of this. So if you give some valid inputs like 4 by 2, then 2 by 2.0 is coming. This is result is coming. So two except blocks are there here. Depends on the error, depend on the exception, what except block is required to execute, that only will be executes are here. So if you raise zero division, this except block will give the message. If we raise value error, then this value error second except block will give the message. This is exactly what we have to do it. So value error as well as zero division error clearly here. Except block, zero division error, except block, value error like this. Fine. Sir, can't we include multiple exceptions within the one except block only? See, instead of taking multiple except blocks here, can't we include multiple exceptions? Yes, in one except block, fine, we can also do it. So let's see this here. I'm using multiple exceptions here. Zero division error class is one. Value error is one more exception class. Here, two exception classes I'm taking here within the same except block only. Possible, sir. It's clearly possible. Okay. So zero division is one exception. Value error is another exception. Two exception classes I'm including in one except block. Both can be handled here. Handling here zero division by zero. Now I'm giving some characters like this. Now you can see invalid literal for int with base 10 something. And if I try to give some valid inputs like 5 by 2, we got this. So we can include multiple exception classes in single except block clearly instead of maintaining multiple except blocks. Within the same except block, we are having two exception classes. That two exception classes will return message according to the raised exception here. But look at this, instead of this multiple exception classes can also include, sometimes as a programmer we don't have any idea about exceptions, what exceptions are going to be raising. Okay, in that context we can use what actually uh, super class exception. So we are using zero division error, value error. Okay, so here I'm using superclass, sir. Let's see this superclass exception as message. So this superclass can handle all the exception classes, no problem at all. The moment when I hit this, now you can enter first number. Now you can see first number. So this can be handled or not? Yes. Superclass is handling any numbers, characters. It is handling clearly. So fine, working well, no problem at all. So look at this superclass can able to handle. So what is the difference between here superclass and this one? Look at this. The moment when we use superclass, it's a all subclass exceptions can be handled by superclass only. When programmer don't know what exceptions raised in the program, so if sometimes they don't be any idea, so then we can recommend to use superclass only. It can handle. Or else you can see we can use default except block also here. one default accept block is there. Default accept block means what? The problem is what? Default accept block, you have to define your own message. That message only will display to the user. Something went wrong. Now you can see enter first number and second number, only something went wrong, it is there. Difference between default accept block and accept block with specific accept block superclass is what? Superclass can able to return messages clearly. Okay, what type of message according to the exception, but here default accept block doesn't return any message. Whatever we have written the message, default messages, that only will return to us. So this is superclass, but usage of superclass is not recommend always. Why? Because imagine that you are using superclass, but whenever we get the exception in the program, that need to be processed by superclass through only. So superclass has to check all the subclass exceptions within it. So it takes little bit time when compared to direct exception class using, and when compared to superclass we are using. Superclass means it has to check all the subclass exceptions within it, and obviously it will take time checking process. Better to use subclass exceptions when we have idea about your exceptions. If you don't have any idea about your exceptions, then subclass exceptions are recommended. Yes, that's what I'm using. Superclass, somewhat little bit speed issues will be there because it has to point superclass. In that superclass, many subclasses are there. Which subclasses exception got raised here? That related messages it has to give. But when we use subclass exception, directly we are pointing to the subclass only. No need to collect the all subclasses from the superclass. So somewhat little bit speed issues are there. So that's what we don't recommend initially. In case as a programmer we don't have any idea about your exceptions. Sometimes when we write the code, we don't get idea what type of exception there may be chance to raise. In that context, most of the cases we use superclasses only. There is no option for us. But sometimes you will get clearly. So this is the case, this exceptions raised in this program. So in that context, we can go for simply what? Subclass exceptions only recommended. Subclass exception means zero division error, value error, like this, one type of error that you can able to manage it. So this is overall try except implementation clearly. There is finally block also there for your kind information. Okay, I have to include finally block. Try except finally also there. One more block that I'll discuss in next session. Don't worry. But look at this. Once we have a superclass exception except block here. So suppose already, sir, here I have added zero division error because how to handle this situation, I know that. Suppose in case as a programmer, you know the clarity here in this case, zero division error handling. So zero division error purpose, I included it. We got this zero division error message. Perfect. So as a programmer, you're only knowing that how to handle the zero division exception. We have handled this zero division error class we are using. But apart from zero division error, we don't know as a programmer, there may be chance to get any other type of exceptions also. In any other type of exceptions we got, then how we can handle? So that's what for better purpose, spare copy I'm giving like except block. This is what default except block. And in this default except block, I'm writing like this. Something went wrong again. Something went wrong. And what is the use to write this code? We have one specific except block is there. We have also default except block also there. No, specific except block is there, and default except block also there. What is my plan? In the sense, I know how, I know this about zero division error. So that's what, whenever zero division error occurred, this line number 7, this except block will be shows, can be handle the situation. Look at this, 10 by 0, division by 0 is got. But any case by chance any other exceptions occurred, but that I don't know really, then who will take care of other exceptions handling? Default except block will take care other exception handlings. Okay, default except block. See, even though as a programmer we have handled the exceptions well according to your requirement, but apart from that handling exception, there may be chance to get other exceptions also. In that context, what we can use? Default except block. So default except block, remaining exceptions classes will take, no problem. Okay, yes. But you may get out. So when, especially in this case, I'm taking, when we are taking two except blocks, that is, one is specific except block, another one is default except block. Always default except block should be last only, sir. Strictly remember, it should be what? Last. Default except block should be last, because priority after handling your own exceptions, then next priority goes to default exceptions only. For example, here, if I try to give this default except block only first, then you will get error, syntax error. You can see why? Because default except must be last. The reason is what, if we are giving default except block first only, it can be able to handle all the situation, all the exceptions. Then what is the need to provide again specific except block? Not required. So when we are trying to handle with multiple except blocks, with one default except block, one specific except block, always default except block should be last only, because this program can handle the exceptions with your own exception classes. In case other than this exceptions, any other exceptions occurred, then default except blocks will take care of that exceptions only. So this is try except implementation, and even finally block also we have to include, and some important cases also we have to see try except how it will work. All remaining things we'll discuss in tomorrow's session. And tomorrow Sunday you have a class again. So from now onwards, every day classes are there, no holiday for this morning batches. So you should also join tomorrow continuously. Monday onwards also same as this. No break for these classes. Okay. So you can use same link and you can join same link only. We will continue.
Hello, sir.
Tell me.
Can you show me the magic method list, sir?
Oh,
How do
yeah.
you find magic method list?
Yes, yes, I'm showing. How many days it is required means I'm not sure, but still minimum 20 days I think so here. Let's show the magic methods of list. So print dir of list list. Now I can see along with all methods, there are so many magic methods also available. These are all magic methods of list only.
Okay, sir.
We have already said that in my previous lecture. Directory of list,
Yes, sir.
directory of
Yes.
string, like that. So this all methods.
Okay, thank you.
So see you tomorrow again with same link.